Good morning. You're watching the Striver Business News Report with Ethan Borda. Today we're watching the Federal Reserve as the Open Market Committee wraps up its meeting announcements and decides what it will do with interest rates. The main lever it uses to cool down or speed up the economy. Today's big question is hold, cut, or hike. Today on the show, I have some data that we can look at and two guests that will help us answer that question. Before I bring in our first guest, let's look at the consumer sentiment. The University of Michigan index is 51 in November 2025, which is historically low and suggests people are feeling somewhat cautious about spending. This shows the consumer sentiment with time. We're right here, which is much lower than the baseline, which is 100. This pessimism translates directly into spending. It's one thing to read the data, but it's another to see what's actually happening on Main Street. So let's bring in Mr. Salerno, owner of Salerno's Coffee Shop here in Port Washington, to tell us what customers are really doing.
Good morning.
Good morning to you too. The first thing I want to ask you is whether you've noticed any changes in your business.
Yeah, things aren't going well. People are buying less drinks and pastries, and business has been slow recently. On top of that, the prices of coffee beans has gone up. The Trump administration imposed a 20% tariff on coffee beans, which I buy from Brazil. On top of that, wages have also gone up, and I'm struggling to keep up with other pressures.
Yeah, it makes sense. And the data confirms that too. In October 2019, the average hourly wage was $28.23, as we see here. But now it's risen to $36.86 as of 2026, as we see right here.
Yeah, I'm under a lot of pressure, and imagine how I feel seeing that the EU and South America made a free trade zone. And because of that, coffee is a lot cheaper in Europe than it is here.
Well, makes sense. That's logical. I want to thank you for giving your perspective, and now I want to redirect our focus to the financial market. I want to welcome Professor Lam from Yale University. I first want to ask you about the financial news that came out this Friday.
Yes, of course. Employers added 50,000 jobs in December, a moderate gain for the economy, but ending the worst year for the labor market since the pandemic-era recession. In total, 584,000 jobs were added, and that's only 49,000 a month for 2025. Compare that with the 2 million jobs added in 2024, which was 168,000 jobs a month. Just take a look at this chart.
In this chart, we see that the number of jobs have slowly been decreasing throughout 2025.
Employment fell at 4.4%, which means it went down from 4.6% in November. This signals some cooling down of the economy, but it's not an indication of a recession. A good economic indicator of whether we're going into a recession is the total non-farm payroll employment. This counts paid employees in non-agricultural sectors, excluding farm workers, private household staff, volunteers, the self-employed, and the military personnel. Let's look at this graph. Well, as we can see, it's been steadily increasing since January 2022.
But didn't we also see unemployment go up this past year? How's this consistent?
That's because unemployment factors in both the number of jobs added and the total labor force. So even if job numbers have been increasing, if new people join the labor force which are looking for work, that can increase the proportion of the unemployed. So jobs are still growing, but just slowly.
Yeah, it makes sense. Now there's another economic indicator I wanted to ask you. Could you talk about the Consumer Price Index and what it means for the economy?
There are two similar indicators. We have the headline Consumer Price Index, which measures the rate at which a fixed basket of goods increases its price due to inflation and is currently at 3.02%. The core CPI, which measures the same thing except excluding food and energy from its basket of goods. The Fed likes to look at the core CPI because the price of food and energy can be very volatile, so by getting rid of them, we unmask the underlying inflation trends. We see that the core CPI is also at 3.02%, implying that the prices excluding food and energy are 3.02% higher than 1 year earlier, so inflation is much lower than the 2022 peak. But it will still be above the Fed's long-run 2% goal.
Makes sense. Could you tell us about durable goods and what they mean for the economy?
Yeah. Durable goods are long-lasting products designed for repeated use over an extended period, typically defined as having a useful life of 3 years or more, unlike items that are quickly consumed. They provide value over time, are purchased infrequently, and include purchases like cars, appliances, furniture, electronics, and machinery. They act as key economic indicators of consumer confidence and business health because consumers have the flexibility to wait to purchase them. Although total durable good orders fell by 2.2%, last month they have still been steadily increasing in the last few years, as we can see based on this graph.
That's very interesting. Very insightful. Could you tell us a little bit about the real GDP and what it means for the economy?
Yeah. Real GDP reflects the total amount of output our nation creates. This includes consumer spending, investment spending, government spending, and net exports. The real component adjusts for inflation. Real GDP shows that the government is still expanding, not shrinking. From quarter to quarter, the economy grew, and if it kept going for a full year at the same quarterly pace, the year's growth would be around 4.3%.
Yeah. This is the graph that I put up just shows how the real GDP changed per quarter. So this is from 2019 to 2025. Now that we're well versed in all the different economic indicators, what is your opinion on what the Fed should do to interest rates?
Well, I think it'd be better if I went to the board and explained it.
Okay, let's see you at the board.
Yeah, so decreasing interest rates increases consumer spending and investment spending by firms. This increases the real GDP, which on every single price level, which increases our aggregate demand and shifts it to the right. This returns us to long-run equilibrium and eliminates the recessionary gap. However, it also increases the price level, which therefore increases inflation. My opinion is that real GDP will continue to grow, so the economy isn't in a recession. Combined with inflation still above 2% and unemployment at 4.4%, this supports a hold. Keep policy steady while we watch whether growth cools and inflation continues trending down.
That makes sense. I want to now think about what the Fed will actually do. We see here that how the Fed has changed the discount rate for the past few years. It's gone up, and then during 2025 it remained relatively stable, but it went down a little bit. We also see the interest on reserves follow the similar trend. So what do you think of that?
I think the Fed will keep it the same.
All right.
When I opened Salerno's Coffee, I had one goal: make every cup feel like home. We roast our beans right here in town, steam the milk to velvet, and finish with art on top.
Breaking news. There's a new decision. I'm going to read the FOMC statement right now. The Federal Open Market Committee decided to maintain the target range for federal funds right at 3.5 to 3.7%. The committee goal is for maximum employment and inflation rate at 2% in the long run. Recent indicators suggest that economic activities continue to expand while the labor market shows signs of cooling. The unemployment rate did edge down, and the monthly job gains have been more modest. Inflation has erased substantially from its earlier highs, but the headline and core inflation rate remain above the committee's long-run objective. The committee will carefully assess incoming data, including readings on labor market conditions, inflations, and pressures on financial and international developments. So I guess you were right, Professor Webb.
Are you kidding me? I spent 3 hours making that for you. Security!
Not only did he spit out my coffee, but he wants to hold interest rates while my business is suffering.
Yes, of course. Employers added 584,000 jobs in December, a moderate gain for the
That's not what
economy.
it says. It says 50,000 jobs.
Put 50,000.
How much?
50,000. Wait, no, leave the 584. There's a lot of numbers in this paragraph.